All right, guys, I know the title of this video is a little clickbaity, and believe me, I hate clickbait just as much as the next person. And although this is a video about 10 complaints about the DJI Mic 2, these are not complaints that are coming from me. So typically what I do when I'm interested in buying a new product, I do like everybody else, go straight to YouTube, watch a bunch of videos from all the creators out there that is talking about the product. But I don't just watch what the creators are saying, because let's be honest, a lot of these creators are a little bit biased and they always tell us what they love about each product. And believe me, I get it. You don't really want to mess up your opportunities and working with brands for the long term if all you do every time is just trash their products. So what I typically do is not just watch what the creators are saying, but I go down to the comments and watch what regular people are saying about the products, especially the ones that have real case scenarios that used it, bought it, and have super unbiased opinions on it. And some of the complaints that you can find in these comment sections are a lot of times just ridiculous. So that compelled me to make this video where I come on and pick out some of the comments that I've seen, go through them, and just kind of not necessarily debunk them, but just give my overall thoughts on some of the complaints that a lot of other people are saying. Now for me, I went out and bought the DJI Mic 2 system. I previously did have the DJI Mic 1. And the reason why I was intrigued about the Mic 2 was because of the 32-bit flow audio. That's something that will allow me to use this professionally on shoots, not just for myself and my own content, but it gives me the flexibility and the wherewithal to use this type of products in a professional environment, such as weddings, client shoots, and other things like that. So I went ahead and picked it up because of that 32-bit float capabilities. Again, love the version 1. So the version 2 was just a welcome upgrade for me. Going from 24-bit to 32-bit was a big deal, game changer for me. So that was enough for me to go ahead and buy this product. But with all that out the way, and with all that being said, let's jump into the top 10 complaints that I've seen in the comment section on all of these other DJI videos. Let's get into it. All right, let's not waste any more time. We're gonna jump right into these comments, and I'm gonna just give my opinions on what I think, having bought it and been testing it out for the past couple days myself. All right, the first complaint is it only records in 23-minute increments when you're recording in 32-bit flow audio. I don't know why this is a big deal to a lot of people. That's actually, for me, it's kind of a pro, because you don't really want, so if you're shooting something for a really long video, wedding ceremonies, things like that, and those things can go pretty long, and you get to a point where you record for an hour, 2 hours straight, whatever. I think it's almost better to have 23-minute increments, just because you just don't want to have one full file of just dead space, so you can kind of easily pick those things out, delete them if you need to. It's easier file management. I don't know, for me it's just a lot easier when they're in 23-minute increments, or 15-minute or 30-minute, whatever the case may be. I know for weddings, I would use the DR10Ls a lot. I have 2 of those, and prior to this system and the DR10L Pro that came out, I was using the DR10L version 1, and those recorded in, I believe, 15-minute increments. Didn't have an issue with that whatsoever. And since then, the Tascam DR10L Pro came out, I went ahead and bought one of those. Now those don't have a recording limit increment. Those just record for as long as you want, one file, 2 hours long. And although it is nice, I just find it more difficult to sift through some of the dead space, some of the stuff that you don't want. And you can't just easily delete it from your files to free up space from your hard drive. I know we're talking about hard drive space. These audio files are very, very small in the grand scheme of things, and I understand that. But at the same time, if I put a microphone on a subject and they're just out, and the ceremony doesn't start for another 30 minutes, but I just want to put it on them to kind of assure that it's going to be recorded and it's going to be good. That first 30-minute increment, I don't want that. So if I come back to the editing and get all the files and there's nothing in that segment, I could just delete the file and be gone and be done with it. But if it's just one long file, I just can't pick up that file and delete it out of my software. I would either have to trim it down, edit it in some type of way, which isn't a big deal. So for me, I don't think the 23-minute increment is a big deal. A lot of people are making a big deal of it. It is what it is. 23 minutes, and people are saying it's a lot harder to sync everything up in post. You take the first file, the 23-minute, sync it up, and then everything after that you can just plop and put into place. You don't have to resync everything up, so not a big deal. All right, complaint number 2 is the white reflective DJI front logo. This is one, it was a bit ridiculous to me. I don't know why people are complaining about the white logo on the front. I think the actual comment that I read, the guy was saying that he doesn't like that there is a white reflective DJI logo on the front of this thing. So if he puts this on a subject, shooting a wedding or something like that, and somebody's wearing this, it can reflect off light and it can be distracting to the audience. First of all, if you're shooting weddings and you're using this microphone and just clipping it onto somebody's shirt or jacket or whatever, that's not the way to go. Use lav mics. If you're shooting in a professional environment, weddings, corporate events, things like that, use a lavalier mic. Just go ahead, spend a little extra money, buy a lavalier, and just bypass the whole reflectiveness. But let's get into the reason why I think DJI even put the logo like that on the front to make it bold and stand out. When the first DJI mics came out, everybody was wearing them on their shirts just like this, or on their hats, doing all different kind of crazy things with them. And from a company, you're gonna want to brand yourself and put your logo super big, bold on the front of your products because you want people to know if people are using your products or not. So DJI, it's all about marketing, guys. DJI was smart enough to put the big white logo. If people are gonna be using them like this, DJI wants everyone to know what mics they're using. It's just a marketing strategy. That's all it is. And if you don't want that, again, just use the lavalier mic. It's not a big deal. All right, the third complaint that what I saw is the non-locking lav mic port like you would see in a Tascam DR10Ls or the Rode Wireless Pros. The DJI doesn't have a locking mechanism where you can screw in your lav mic. Now, so instead of the locking mechanism, what DJI did do is have this little system where you can feed the wire through the clip. So if somebody wears a tug on it, they can't take it out, and it will prevent them from pulling this thing out accidentally. Now, I think this is a ridiculous gripe because although that it doesn't lock, and we all do love those assurances that you can lock down your lavalier mic so you can assure that it won't pull out unless you screw it off. But I've been shooting for the better part of 4 years now, and I've never had a situation where I feared that someone was gonna pull this thing out, because even if I'm sitting here trying to pull it, you have to kind of give it a pretty nice little tug in order to get this thing out. So for me, from a wedding filmmaker perspective, let's say I'm putting this on the groom and I mic him up, I usually throw the recorder inside of their jacket pocket or something like that. Have it close where they're not messing with it. Don't put it in your pocket, don't put it in their pocket and things like that. So it can just be away from them. They don't have to worry about anything. And never have I ever seen or had anybody even mess with it. You're miking up your groom, your bride, your officiant, whatever. As you're miking up, just let them know that this is gonna be in their pocket and try not to mess with it. Typically, they won't. Most people that I've shot with are so afraid to touch any of my gear that they're in fear of breaking something that they don't even want to try to take the mic off themselves when I'm taking it off of them. I don't think that's a big deal. Again, the locking mechanism behind the clip is, I think, good enough for you to have that some type of assurances that it won't come loose. And this is not obviously the DJI lavalier mic. This is the Tascam DR10L mic. I prefer to use this one over the DJI one just because, I don't know, I just think it looks better, sounds better, and it doesn't have the fluffy wind cat on it. And I just think this is better, lower profile and easier to hide on subjects and things like that. So the only thing I don't like about using this though is that sticks straight up in the air like that. The DJI one is a right angle. Makes it even a little harder to pull that one out if you're using the DJI lavalier mic. So again, I don't think that's a big deal. I've never had a situation where people would, take this out and pull this out as it was recording and things like that. So that was another one that I saw that I didn't think that was a huge deal. So if you have this type of microphone, I wouldn't worry too much about it accidentally coming out, because again, you have to tug on it pretty good in order to get that thing out. All right, number 4, not being able to disable the power button or any other button for that matter while it's recording. Now, this is the first legitimate complaint that I've seen. It would be nice if DJI had something where once you start recording in the system or in the settings or something, you can disable a lot of the buttons that is on this thing so people don't accidentally hit a button, either turn it off or activate the noise cancellation and things like that. This is a legit complaint. I wish DJI had something where you can disable all of the buttons once it's in record mode, and it's something that you can do on the receiver. But again, they didn't. I think it would be, I don't know if they can do that through a software update or not, but that would be a welcome change if they can do something like that, because that would scare me if I put this on someone and I put it in their pocket or something, they're digging in their pocket to get something else and the microphone just happened to be in there. They accidentally hit a button to activate noise cancellation or to stop recording, or even worse, turn the unit off completely. Now, I've been playing with it and I've been in the menu system. I haven't seen anything where you can disable the buttons. There is a setting where you can disable the recording though. So when you start recording on this thing and you're recording into the microphone itself, you can disable the record button. So if I put this on a subject, start recording with the microphone, I go into my system and my settings and disable that record button, they wouldn't be able to physically stop the recording by just pushing that record button. But I did find that you can turn off the system while it's recording, which is a bit scary. So DJI, if you guys are listening, if you guys can somehow find a way where you can have a software update where you can lock off all the buttons, that would be a big plus. But again, not a deal breaker. It's just one of those things where, you know, you kind of have to be careful, and you got to tell the subject that you're putting this on, try not to touch this thing or hit any buttons. You know, using stuff like the Tascam DR10L, DR10L Pro, and I even think the Rode Wireless Go Pro has that system where you don't necessarily can touch any buttons while it's recording. I'm not 100% on the wireless pros, on the Rode Wireless Pros, but I know for the Tascam DR10Ls, they do have that system, which is very nice and very welcome. And with the Tascam DR10Ls, they even have it where you can't just have a button to turn it off. You have to actually flip a switch and hold it for a couple seconds to get that thing off. So DJI, if you guys are listening, come up with something that we can lock that down, because that is an actual legitimate complaint. But again, not a deal breaker. Complaint number 5, there is no replacing the battery. Now, this was interesting to me because when I first heard that, when I first read that, I thought to myself, like, that is kind of true. What if you had this system for a long time and the battery starts to wane and you can't necessarily replace the battery? Then I thought to myself, if you have this system, this is probably gonna take, what, 5 years or so for that, something like that to happen. And by that time, DJI will probably have come out with so many more different microphones that you probably are gonna wanna upgrade to the newer ones anyway. But I think where this comment came from, the guy was basically saying that if he's on a shoot and the battery's dying, you would have to take the microphone off of a subject, put it in the case, charge it up before you can start reusing it again. With other recorders, like again, the Tascam DR10L, if the battery's running low, you can just take it, replace the batteries, the AAAs, and clip it back up, and you're good to go within a couple seconds. With a system like this, you have to charge. Now, the pros and cons to that, the pro is you never have to buy batteries. That's always a pro, never having to buy more and more stuff for your system. The con, however, if you are running low on battery and you absolutely need it, you can't necessarily just quickly take it off a subject, quickly charge it back up and throw it back on them within seconds. That's not possible, but these things have a 6-hour battery life when it's recording in 32-bit float. I actually tested it out. It was actually more like 5.5 hours that I got in my testing. But again, that is, for me anyways, more than enough time on anything that I will ever do in terms of shooting, especially for weddings and client talking head videos or whatever type of videos that I'm producing. 5 hours, 6 hours, that's more than enough time. So for me, not necessarily a big deal, but if you are someone that's doing higher production type stuff where you're having a microphone, somebody mic'd up for longer than 6 hours at a time, that's gonna be an issue for you. So this might not be the system for you. And again, if you're someone that's shooting stuff like that, you shouldn't even be looking to this type of system, because this system was more so built for creators and the run-of-the-mill content creators and semi-professionals out there that are shooting smaller type stuff, smaller production type stuff. So if you're shooting big productions and things like that, you shouldn't be looking to a system like this. You should be somewhere in the more expensive stuff. So for me, not necessarily a legitimate complaint, but I do understand the complaint for someone like these indie filmmakers or these movie documentary type people or whatever the case may be. Legitimate complaint for them, but for the run-of-the-mill content creators, wedding filmmakers, just small-time videographers like myself, not a big complaint. 6 hours, plenty enough time to get my shooting done. And that's 6 hours straight recording. That's not turn it off, turn it back on. 6 hours straight recording, or in my test, 5.5 hours of continuous 32-bit float recording. I don't know anybody that's doing that, so again, not a big complaint. All right, number 6, no timecode. Now, if you are someone that don't know what timecode is basically a system where if you're having multiple cameras, multiple different audio devices, timecode is something that you can have going when you're recording multiple things. And then when you get back in the editing platform, you can take all of that footage, press one button, and everything just syncs up automatically so you don't have to do it manually. Again, this system was made for content creators and small-time videographers, filmmakers, and things like that. And so if you're doing something like documentary work, filmmaking, and actual films, short films, things like that, might not be something that you probably would want to gravitate to if you have multiple cameras on set and you have multiple subjects micing up and things like that. I guess from that standpoint, that would be a legitimate complaint, but I've been shooting for the better part of 4 years now. I've done a wide range of couple different industries. So for me, timecode is not a huge deal. I actually did buy a timecode device a while back to test out because I thought it would be a cool concept to save me a ton of time in editing. It became a hassle. I didn't necessarily like using timecode because you had to sync up all your cameras and everything like that. And for me, it just wasn't really worth it. I'd rather spend the extra 10, 20 minutes in post, syncing up all my footage and just going about my day. It's not that cumbersome in the editing process, especially with these new tools, especially in Premiere Pro. All you gotta do is highlight it, click a button, and it'll sync up automatically and you're good to go. It's not a big deal for me, but again, if you're an indie filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, that's something that could be a deal breaker. And again, you shouldn't be looking to this system anyways if you're shooting that type of stuff. So again, not a legitimate complaint in my opinion. All right, number 7. Now these audio transmitters, now they have their own onboard audio, so it's a standalone recorder, but you can only store 11 hours of 32-bit flow audio within this device. I think it's 11 hours, or it's 11 hours with 24-bit and just a little bit less with 32-bit. I'm not 100% sure on that, but again, 11 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours, whatever the case may be, that's plenty of storage for this system. Because again, this system was built for small-time content creators. If you're someone that's using more than 11 hours of storage on one shoot, that's an issue. I've never met anyone that has needed that much storage for one shoot. And I guess this gripe comes from a lot of people because the Rode Wireless Pros have, I think, up to 40 hours of onboard storage on their devices, and this one's only 11 hours. So that is a big difference. But again, you're not touching 40 hours on a device. You're not even touching 11 hours, in my opinion, especially after a shoot. It would be in your best interest that every time you shoot something, you bring it back to the editing bay, you unload all your footage, and before you go out on your next shoot, it'll be a good idea to format these before you start shooting again. Again, it's just ease of mind, having all your files easily accessible. When you plug this into a computer to extract the files, you don't have to shift through all of them to see which ones are the ones that you recorded for that event. If you're like me, I like to format everything and start completely fresh every time I do a new shoot. So, and if something happens where you forget to format it, again, 11 hours, you're not going to even touch that. So again, for me, not a big deal. All right, number 8, the windscreen. Now these are pretty cool. Now the new windscreen mechanism that DJI introduced in the new DJI Mic 2s is very welcome. Before it was that clunky little thing we had to line it up, twist it, and it could just be a hassle sometimes. It wasn't super cumbersome, but again, could be a hassle when you're trying to do this thing on a fly. get it on quickly and things like that. So for the new system, it's just this plastic little microphone jack thing. You just plug that in, click it in, and you're good to go. Now, the complaint that a lot of people are having is that you can't put this thing inside the case and close it like you can do with the Rode Wireless Pros. I guess that's a complaint. For me, not a big deal, especially when it's super easy to take this thing off and put it back on. Not a big deal. Coming from the DJI version 1s, I can see how that was a big deal because you want to put that thing on and you don't want to fumble with it every time trying to twist that on and off. So if you can twist it on and then lock it in, if you usually use the windscreen, you can just keep it on all the time and don't have to worry about it. But now, since this thing is so easy to just put on and off, I don't think it's a big deal to take this off, close up the case, and just keep this in the pouch that DJI gives you when you order this system, which is a really nice pouch, by the way. I really like the design. I like how you can house everything in here and you can just take this thing and go on the go. Much better upgrade from the version 1 with a little drawstring pouch that they give you. So another one that's not a legitimate complaint. All right, complaint number 9. The DJI mic system does not come with lavalier mics. This is a legitimate complaint because for roughly the same price or $50 more for a system like the Rode Wireless Pros, those come in at about $350 to $400 and they give you 2 lavalier mics with that system for free in the case automatically. DJI, however, doesn't give you that option. You can buy lavalier mics separately for $40 a piece, but I just think it would have been nice for DJI to include that within the system and not charge us extra for the lavs. But again, I think DJI, when they're setting out to release this type of product, it was more so for the creators just to plop on their shirt, magnetize it to their shirt, and be on about their way. And for us that doesn't like necessarily having that system or having the microphone just there, and I'd rather use a lav mic. They didn't have us in mind when they were obviously putting this together. So for like the more professional filmmaker that uses lav mics for shooting weddings and things like that, you'd have to pay an extra $40 per lavalier mic to use this system. Again, I think that was a legitimate complaint. They could have just added that within the package, but you know, it's one of those things where it's kind of nitpicky. But again, for me, I kind of prefer using the Tascam lavs anyway. So I actually did order the DJI lavalier mic, but I quickly canceled it when I found that I can just use my Tascam mics because I just like it better and it's easier to use, more durable in my opinion. But I do like that 360 swivel that you can do on the DJI lavalier system. But for me, I like the lower profile microphone that doesn't have that big fuzzy windscreen on it. That's just a personal preference for me. But I do think it's a legitimate complaint that they didn't add the lavalier mic system with this package. All right, last but certainly not least, because if you guys know, there's a ton of things out there that people have an issue with this product. But the last thing that's on my list is the Bluetooth function in these microphones suck. That's the complaint that a lot of people are having when you use the Bluetooth to say you want to wirelessly connect these microphones to like a phone or your Osmo Pocket or a GoPro or things like that. That connection oftentimes is really, really bad unless you're using DJI products. So if you're using something like the Osmo Pocket, from what I've heard, because I don't own that, that Bluetooth system syncs up great. No worries, no issues whatsoever. Hear it perfectly fine, no drop off, everything's good to go. But at the same time, if you try to link that up with your phone, then you can have some issues where it starts cutting in and out and you have some drop off issues and things like that. I guess that's a legitimate complaint, but for me, it's not necessarily a legitimate complaint because you can still just connect the attachments that come with your transmitter or your receiver and just connect this to your phone and you won't have any type of drop-off issues whatsoever. But in my opinion, I think you should be using the onboard audio recording anyway and not necessarily using the transmitter when you're using this particular system. But when you're in a pinch and you just want to do something quick and dirty for social media or if you're live streaming or something like that, you do want, it would be nice to have like a reliable Bluetooth connection. But again, if you just hook this up to your phone, hook this up to whatever device that you're currently using, then that's going to be the way to go. I do think it's pretty cool, however, that DJI even introduced that type of system to us. Maybe they're going to make that better in the future for, you know, stronger Bluetooth connections and things like that. But again, I think it's one of those things where it's kind of gimmicky to begin with. Wasn't something that I'm going to be using or I would even try to use anyway. If you're going to come out with a product that's for the content creator and you have a content creator feature like that, you want to get that right the first time. But then again, it is nice to have if you use it. I haven't tested it out. I'm just going off of what I've seen online. A lot of people saying that the connection is not that great. You know, it's one of those, again, it's a small thing. It's not a big deal for me because I'm not going to use that anyways. But for the other content creators out there that like using their phone and using the microphone and that type of thing, it could be a big deal if it's not a reliable connection. But again, to each its own. So I guess that's kind of like a legitimate complaint, but then again, not really. But you know, to each its own. All right, guys, there you have it. Thanks for sticking around and going through all 10 of these complaints with me. If you like this content, if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel. Comment below if you guys have this system, if you guys like this system, or if you're interested in buying this system. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if these are legitimate complaints or not. I don't know. Like I said, for me, not a lot of them are. There were some of them that were. And yeah, let me know in the comments of what you guys think. And until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.